It, and now we started. Rich, it's good to see you. Where are you in the United States currently?
I am in Washington, D.C., about 9 blocks from the U.S. Capitol. I live on Capitol Hill, fortunately.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. So I have a nice view on Capitol Hill, I guess.
I do. Yeah, it's less than a mile from the Capitol, from my house to the Capitol. I used to work in the United States Senate for almost 8 years. Came up here in 1996, and we decided we were going to rent a house on Capitol Hill because I was going to work all the time, and then buy somewhere with a yard and all of that. And then we fell in love with Capitol Hill and stayed here, and it's a great neighborhood. I do. Yeah.
I really believe that. Rich, the last time when I was in the United States was in 2019 when I attended the Bio.News, and I still got this Philadelphia cup from Starbucks from this time. I'm curious, how is the situation with the pandemic in the United States currently?
Listen, it's challenging. And I'll tell you this, it's a whole lot better than it was a year ago, and it's a whole lot even better than it was 2 years ago. But we're starting to see little bubbles of reoccurrence of COVID, although not nearly as deadly. We're not seeing the death rates and the hospital rates because, we have a lot of people, most of our people have been vaccinated and boosted. So what you're seeing is the severity go away. However, transmission is still a bit of a challenge. We're keeping an eye on it, but we are really, really optimistic about our being able to come back. And, all of this is simply because of the great work of our companies. 3 years ago, when we had our last one in Philadelphia, no one could have predicted this. I mean, just think about this, Christian. It's amazing. When we met in Philadelphia, no one could have predicted this. 6 months later, there was a challenge to the industry. This pandemic started coming in, and governments and everyone said there's going to be no limits on science. Go get us a cure. And guess what? The companies went out and they got us a cure because there was no limits. And that's why the theme of this year's in-person convention is limitless, because it shows what our companies can do if government and other actors don't get in the way. And so it's an exciting time for us. We are thrilled to be back in person. And the reason we're back in person is because of the work of our companies. And I'm talking about a dozen companies. There was at one point, Christian, 900 vaccines, treatments in development, 900 within a few months of the beginning of this pandemic. And it's because of all the research that our researchers have done for so many years.
I mean, this was an amazing move from the entire industry. I think, as you said, in March 2020, there were the first lockdowns here in Europe, and no therapeutic was on the market and no vaccine was on the market. And I think it was only a year later that the first vaccine was available for treatment of the elderly people. Was it? Do I remember it right?
Yes. I mean, that is about right. And so, the interesting thing is a lot of people don't realize what bio actually is. So bio obviously is the biggest, most important convention that the industry has. But bio is an organization made up of 1,000 different companies who are every day getting up and trying to end disease and make lives better. And it's biotechnology really across the spectrum. I mean, we're working on biotechnology experiments, on food and nutrition and on fueling and making sure that we can eliminate greenhouse gas. And of course, the public health piece. So bio is really more than a conference. I mean, our conference is like the crown jewel of the whole thing. But we're so proud of the companies that just jumped into the middle of this. And one of the things, honestly, Christian, that Bio did early on was because we represent 1,000 companies, we pulled them together in several different conferences to make sure we were coordinating our efforts. So again, we had 900 companies, 100 of them working on vaccines alone. We wanted to make sure that we were complementing each other, not kind of working on the same stuff. And we were able to do that. The other challenge we had early on in the pandemic was there was a shortage of laboratory equipment. There was labs that, had trouble getting plastic, tubing bags and a number of other pieces of lab equipment. And so what we did is we pulled together and made kind of a Craigslist, so that one lab, if it was in, South Dakota in the United States, and there was a company in Germany working on a vaccine, but they needed pipettes, we were able to connect those two. So aside from just a conference, we work 365 days a year to make sure our companies really are pulled together. And so that's what makes this live in-person conference this year so exciting to us and the companies who are coming from all over the world. We have almost 200 sessions. We have probably close to 10,000 or more attendees actually coming and being in person. And the reason they come in person is because all of the great work of our scientists.
That's really true. Rich, I didn't know that. The only thing that I saw from, I mean, as a European, I'm in Austria and in Vienna, in Austria, and the only thing that I saw from the Bio was the Bio US every year in June. Can you give a little bit more context what your organization is doing, what's behind it, and what you do besides the Bio US?
That's a great question, Christian. And it's true. A lot of people look at Bio and they assume because it is the premier conference, it's a premier convention for our industry all over the world. 40% of our attendees will come from outside of the United States. It's a massive international audience. And so a lot of people don't understand that Bio is what we call an advocacy organization as well. So one of our challenges is US policymakers or policymakers in Europe try to limit. We hear this talk all the time about, policymakers trying to do certain things that could actually adversely impact the industry, that could limit investment in industry. I mean, if you look right now at what is going on in the financial markets as it pertains to investments in our small companies, it's really devastating. Many of these small companies are having difficulty raising capital. And Christian, you wouldn't think that because we've just, come out of a period in which the beauty of biotechnology and the beauty of science helps save the world. You would think there'd be more investments now than ever before in biotechnology. And you're seeing the reverse. And part of that is because policymakers are talking about policies that would artificially set prices. And instead of companies deciding how they're going to retain their money for all the investment they put back in, they're talking about government price controls that come in and just tell, this is the price you're going to pay, which means if I'm an investor, why would I invest in something that I know I'm not even going to get my money back, even if it is successful? And so one of the many things that Bio does is we advocate for policies that will help our companies thrive and will help our companies grow and will help keep investments in science. Only through investments in science can we do things like we were able to do during the pandemic.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, without investment, science cannot evolve into products. We have a similar problem here in Europe. I mean, there is a lot of public funding available on the basic research side, but for translating research into products, we still have a lack of capital, and all Europeans are eyeing towards the United States because from our perspective, it's basically the heaven of capital, the capital heaven. How is the situation for investments really in the United States?
It's a difficult atmosphere right now. First, to begin with, the inflation rate in the United States, coupled with really kind of backward policy discussions, has caused a lot of unease in the financial markets in the United States. Everyone is fairly, bullish on the fact that, in a year's time, that we're going to be able to have kind of a resurgence when people understand the impacts. But it's still a difficult time, which means our work at Bio is really, really more important now than ever before. So I think to our European friends, we want to say, hold on, we need your help. The truth of it is we have to make sure that we can maintain these robust capital markets. If these kind of onerous price controls happen, you could see the shift, and that's a real challenge. And, being in Europe, you understand this. I mean, the vast majority of 1990s, the vast majority of investments in biotechnology and in drug development was in Europe. And then Europe came in with onerous price controls, and all that capital shifted to the United States. And so the idea is sure that we have robust capital markets so that our companies, whether they're based in Europe and can work and raise capital in the US, that we still don't limit. That's, again, back to the theme of this convention, limitless. Our science can do anything as long as we don't put these artificial limits around them. It's a really important message that we're really, really trying to drive home. So as you can see at our convention, we are going to be talking about the limitless of our science. We also want to make sure that we're engaging people and getting them involved in the public advocacy that we need to help. One other thing, too, that I might add, when we talk about bio as a whole, there's another thing, Christian, that many people don't even realize that we do. We have a program called Bio Business Solutions. And Bio Business Solutions simply gives small companies a big company purchasing power. So, Christian, let's say you and I just came up with a cure for, male pattern baldness, or we... or obviously something very interesting to me. But let's say you and I came up with the biotechnology solution for that, right? And we went out and we raised capital for that, but we're a small company. It's just Christian and Rich and maybe one or two other scientists, right? So we're operating on a very tight budget. This is what these small companies face. And then you and I need to go out and buy a microscope, and it might cost Pfizer $50,000. It would cost us $500,000 because we are a small company. We don't have that large business. We don't have that large business purchasing power. If you join Bio, guess what? Christian and Rich's company can get the same price that a big company gets just by being a Bio member, which is really, really an important, aspect that a lot of people don't even realize about Bio. So we're trying to encourage and we're trying to expand. We would love to increase our membership, especially in Europe. We already have a number of European companies.
Are you open for European and Asian companies as well? I always thought Bio is just for the United States.
100%. We are really going to be we have a CEO, a relatively new CEO, who came to us from Johnson & Johnson. One of the things she has said to us is that we really want to expand our footprint in Europe. You have a lot of interesting technology, starting, Germany and France and Austria. I mean, if you look, the biotechnology is again starting to percolate. Generated a lot by U.S. capital, I might add, which is very important. But we have to figure that out. So yes, Bio is definitely open to European companies. We really encourage it. We already have a number of European and Asian companies that are part of our programs that are taking advantage of all of the savings that they can get. They also reach out to us, and again, advocacy in the U.S., capital formation in the U.S. is so important to those companies in Europe. And so we're attacking it all. So we're a conference for sure. And make no mistake about it, we're going to have fun in San Diego. And we're looking forward for everybody to come and be back in person. But we are actually actively reaching out. We want everybody to look at the whole of Bio. We are on Capitol Hill. That's why I'm on Capitol Hill. That's why I live here right now. We're on Capitol Hill fighting for the industry every single day for policy ideas that'll help our industry grow.
No, that's good to hear. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the United States and Europe in terms of biotechnology should work closely together. On one hand, in Europe, we have this Horizon Europe program, which is great because it pours a lot of capital into early stage research. But I think we lack two things. You talked about capital markets. I think the capital markets in the United States are more robust and there is more capital available for translating technology into products. And the second thing is what I always envy the United States for, entrepreneurship. How do you see entrepreneurship in biotech in the United States?
Well, we certainly, up until, there was a kind of the last couple months freeze in the financial markets, we were seeing a huge growth. I mean, prior to the current state where there's been a really chilling slowdown. Prior to that, we had several years of kind of explosive growth. Capital, I wouldn't say was easy to come by. but capital was available. And you saw that people were starting to grow that. The other interesting thing, Christian, and as we look at this, there are certain pockets in the United States that could really benefit from greater investment in biotechnology. Traditionally, biotechnology is centered around the hubs of Boston, San Francisco, and we love those areas. Those are great feeders for everything. But you're now starting to see biotechnology entrepreneurship expand in the US to places like Georgia and Phoenix, Arizona, and Chicago, as the country starts to diversify and understanding that biotechnology jobs are not old style factory jobs. I mean, these are jobs that pay extremely well, offer great benefits, and offer people an opportunity to really sink their teeth in to solving some of the world's greatest challenges. And again, bio is not just biopharmaceuticals, although that is a really, really important thing that we are working on. We also have companies at Bio that are working in the environmental space on ending food hunger. I mean, think about it. In the United States, we have a lot of these empty strip malls that sprung up in the 80s and 90s. If we could convert those, because of biotechnology, into hydroponic farms where you could produce food, farm to table food in economically challenged areas. Think of the impulse. I mean, right now, biggest health disparities in the United States are in pockets of poverty. We have an entire obesity belt because of the fact that it's easier to get fast food than it is to get fresh fruits and vegetables. Biotechnology has the power to transform that.
I absolutely agree with that. There's so much more into it, as you say, than drug development. But I'm coming from the drug development space, so
yes,
basically my thinking revolves around that part. What are the big trends that you currently see in bio in your organization?
Well, one of the things that we're starting to see, and I'll talk a little bit about our convention. I'm going to be honest with you, Christian. We were there's a little bit of nerves about, should we have this again live and in person? We have seen, we saw COVID, and we saw Delta, then we saw Omicron, then you saw these different various strains, and so 3 different times at a minimum, everyone thought it was time to take off the masks and go back to living life, and we got kicked in the head. And so there's a little bit of nerves, but our CEO and our events team made the decision back in January, when we saw the trends and we knew where the science was. We said, we are going to have a live and in-person event. We're not going to do a hybrid event. We are going to do an event that is going to bring people back. It's time for people to come back. More importantly, it's time to celebrate the work of our industry. Conferences are a multi-billion-dollar business in the United States and in Europe and in some Latin American countries, where big conventions go in. You draw 10, 20,000 people to a city. That's massive economic development. That provides jobs in San Diego. It provides economic security. It provides a forum. And guess what? For 2 years, almost 3 years now, that's been silenced. All of those jobs have gone away. All of that economic power, that engine was silenced. And you know what? It's coming back. And so Dr. Michelle McMurray-Heath, our CEO, Dr. Michelle, said, we're going live. We're going to focus on going live. And we kind of held our breath. We're still holding our breath, waiting to see how it's going to go. We are beating historical trends. People are signing up. Our bet on live and in-person events is paying off. People are signing up by the droves. Our number line continues to go up. We haven't plateaued. And so if people are listening and are interested, they can go to Bio.Org and check out our international convention. It's easy to sign up. And more importantly, come check what we're all about. It's important to understand that the conference is important. It brings all the best minds together. We've got terrific speakers and opportunities. Venus Williams and Aaron Andrews are going to be there to address the convention and give a speech. Dr. Michelle McMurray-Heath is going to be interviewed by Dr. Sid Mukherjee. the author of The Emperor of All Maladies. And they're going to talk about what our industry did to get out of COVID. And they're also going to be talking about how science could be the next social justice issue of our time. How, if we are going to end things like, food insecurity, if we're going to make sure that people across the economic spectrum have access to our medicines, if we are going to make sure that biotechnology is going to be at the forefront of ending greenhouse gases, that means science should be a social justice issue. Dr. Michelle McMurray-Heath has been pushing that as a theme of hers. She'll be talking to Dr. Sid Mukherjee. There's also going to be unlimitless networking opportunities. So as you and I talked a little bit, when you want investments, and so if you're a European company and you are thinking about how do I get investments, you can come to the United States and go to our unprecedented partnering application. If you sign up for Bio's partnering, what it'll do, again, let's go back to our fake company, the Chris and Rich company. We want to get capital. And so we have an unlimited opportunity, if you and I go to San Diego, to fill our calendar with meetings with prospective investors. Then we can pitch those investors and we can tell them how we're going to end male pattern baldness. And guess what? We're going to have an amazing opportunity to partner with people who can actually put money into action so that we can actually do that science. So there's 1,000 reasons why people should come, be there in person. Deals happen all the time on the sideline. The history is replete with the next big drug. Someone was walking down the hallway, saw an investor that she knew and reached out, and they just happened to catch up. So we've got so many opportunities at Bio 2022, and we would love to see all of our European friends. It's a historic opportunity for us. Capital is difficult to come by. If you want to look at capital, there's no better place to be than in San Diego, June 13, 14, 15, and 16.
I absolutely agree with that. Bio is always a great event, and I love the partnering. Let me ask you one question. I experienced both worlds now. Before the pandemic, I perceived the pharma industry, and especially all biosectors, let's just call it that way, was before I moved in the pharma industry, I was in agriculture. And both worlds were basically, I would say, more or less not so much digital. We met in person, and then March 2020 changed everything. And from one day to the other, the real world was gone and everything moved into the digital space. I'm curious to hear your opinion. We now have 2 years of digital events, and we now have hopefully coming these real life events back to us. Where do you see the advantages and disadvantages of both formats? Is there anything in the digital world that you think you could take with you into the future? Or is the real life world, like we are going to see now in San Diego again, is it the way to go?
Well, it's a great question, Christian. And let me, it's one that we have thought about a lot, to kind of re-envision what a convening model, what a convention model looks like in a post-pandemic world. And, first of all, there's nothing that substitute being live and in person. Those interactions that you have in the hallway, you cannot replicate that in a virtual world. You just can't. However, one of the things that we did learn is that, and one of the things that we were going to even before, was the content that happens at convention is so rich, and it's so evergreen. In other words, it doesn't just go away. In those 4 days. And it's amazing for people to be able to see that. And there's almost too much. You can physically, Christian, as well as I do, since you've been, you can go to convention and you can go to one meeting after the next for 4 straight days and still miss half of the stuff that's going on, right? There's so much interesting content there. So one of the things that we have done is we have built a content engine. And this has been my kind of baby. We have built a content engine to be able to create a long-lasting experience for people. So we've done many things, and I'm really happy you asked me about this. Every single morning in your inbox, you can get a daily email from Bio, and it's called Good Day Bio. And it is a 3 to 5 minute read. It takes you 3 to 5 minutes to read it. And it talks about everything that's happening in Washington, D.C., which will impact capital markets. It'll impact the legislation. It's a quick, easy read every single solitary morning. And the reason that that is important is we think it's important to touch all of our members on a daily basis, not just when something bad is happening, but let's talk about the great things that are going on. So Good Day Bio also was born of this idea that we had at going to convention and creating more content. So in other words, let's go back to our fictional company, Christian. Mm-hmm. You and I go to Startup Stadium at convention, and you and I make a presentation at Startup Stadium about our new technology to end male pattern baldness. We make this great piece of content. We now can take many pieces of content that occur at Bio and make them available throughout the rest of the year. So one of the things that we did during the lockdown and during pandemic was we learned how to basically create this content. Again, it doesn't replace being there live and in person, but it will make the content that is that you have at convention live a long, long time. And for those who can't make convention, if it's too late, if you're in the middle of things and you can't make convention, if you go to bio.org/good day, you can sign up for Good Day Bio. Every single day, you'll get updates about what's going on. You'll get links to important things. We have a team of reporters who actually are covering the events. So even if you don't go, and we urge everybody to go, again, it's the best convention imaginable. But if you can't, you can still get updates. And more importantly, for those who do go, and who are there, you will also be able to be for Good Day Bio Live. We have a video wrap-up show for Good Day Bio Live. Every day gives kind of a highlights of what everybody had during the day. And this is something you can watch forever. And then if you're plugged into our content engine, you'll be able to see this for the next 6, 7, 8 months.
Did I understand that correctly? That when people, for example, panel discussions at the conference, this was something I always felt a little bit sorry for. I mean, you have 3 to 4 speakers on a stage, which provide great content. And as you said, many people don't have time to attend the speech because they have one-on-one meetings. Some partied a little bit too long in the day before and wake up late and miss the event, and others just got stuck in traffic. And this is in the past, before 2020, I always felt a little bit sorry for those people because, I mean, they missed the great content. And I think, as you said, the advantage of the digital world is filming the content and putting it live. Did I understand you correctly? You are going to do that in the next conference, that you film the presentations and put them online?
Yes, so it'll be on demand, and we'll have a fee, just kind of like we did during the virtual world. So your original question was, how did we learn? So we learned that people would pay and be able to have people would be able to pay and have an experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to package those up, and for a fee on demand, you'll be able to watch those. Ultimately, a lot of the content is going to be seen throughout. I mean, we want to make sure that we're kind of, taking the best of both worlds, the virtual world, and marrying it with that, unforgettable live experience.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is the great thing to film it, and it doesn't matter if there is a fee or not. I mean, it was Warren Buffett is doing with Berkshire Hathaway. I think before 2020, the Berkshire meetings were basically offline. You had to travel to Omaha, Nebraska. And now, since the pandemic, also this year, it was broadcast via the internet. I think CNBC was doing that. And the Bio is doing pretty much the same model then.
Yes. I mean, it's essentially kind of what we want to go to is we have to reimagine what what that is going to be like. We're not exactly like the Berkshire Hathaway group. So we're not doing a hybrid version, because the decision was made. We're going to be live and in person. after the event, you'll be able to get it on demand. We are still encouraging everyone to go and, be there and be in person. So we're not exactly following that model because we want to encourage everybody to be there. And not to mention, with all due respect to Omaha, San Diego is not Omaha. So
yeah, San Diego has a beautiful beach, I guess, and also what I saw, golf courts. So it's also good for playing golf. I think at the convention center, around the convention center, are 4 or 5 golf courts. So it's basically interesting.
It's beautiful. And Omaha, listen, Omaha is a great place. If you've not been to Omaha, it's terrific. We actually are planning a bio impact in Omaha.
Oh, really?
This is for our agriculture and environment companies. That's going to be later in the fall, because Omaha is a place that is starting to grow. It's starting to thrive, and it's becoming in the Midwest of the United States an area where agriculture and environment companies are starting to spring up as they come up with biotechnology solutions for ending hunger and for helping to save the planet. So we've got that event. That'll be in September in Omaha. We couldn't be more excited about that as well. So as soon as we get done with that, we're moving on to our next event.
So we have a full program. Let's stay a little bit with the changes and the differences between pandemic and hopefully the post-pandemic world that we're entering right now, and that we're not going back to the pandemic world. There's one thing that I really missed with the digital world. So when the pandemic started, I saw the positive sides and thought, okay, now more people are coming to conferences from all over the world because it's easy to dial in from Europe to the Bio.US Digital in 2020 and 2021, also from Asia. What I realized, and I would like to hear your opinion on that, whether I'm the only one who saw that or if there are also other people who saw a similar thing. I realized that many people, because the prices were going down, attended the bios just for looking around, engaging with people in meetings without real intention of doing business. When I remember the old bio system in Europe and in the United States, also the Bio Europe here, it was basically a commitment to go there. When I fly to San Diego, it's basically a week of my time. I need to pay attendance fee, I need to pay accommodation and food, and it costs a lot of money. And when you send a team of 10 people there, I think we have about $100,000 or so that people need to spend. So it's a commitment. And as far as I perceived the old bio format, people were really considerate with their time and were more into doing business than in the digital world. Is it only me that saw that problem with the digital versions, or are there also other opinions in the room on that?
No, I think you're 100% correct. And it's the reason that we did not do a hybrid event, because making that commitment, both financially, because it's a financial commitment, but also for the time commitment. You're going to go, you're investing, and many times you're investor dollars. So why are you doing that? You have to do it. So it makes people more serious, and we don't have passive observers. The unfortunate part, or the downside, listen, we were able to pull off some terrific virtual events. The virtual events that we did in 2020 and 2021 were terrific. I mean, I watched all of as many of the sessions as I could get to. I thought it was terrific. But it doesn't replace that. And, one of the things that we continually saw is that what is missing in that live event is that commitment that you mentioned. When you make a financial commitment, when you make a time commitment, when you're physically there, you're not going to sit in your hotel room and watch the sessions as they go. The other thing is, we believe that, there's nothing replaces that kind of in-person experience. Again, we did a great job at pulling together the virtual world, and we had some amazing speakers, and we had a delay for those who, to make sure that people who had signed up for our conference in Asia, were able to have content for an exclusive period of time. I mean, I think we did as good a job as you possibly can. But the challenge you mentioned is exactly why we decided not to do a hybrid event, because that commitment shows, makes people very serious about going there, meeting folks, and being able to use everything that's there. I mean, You can sign up for partnering meetings, and you can do partnering meetings like this. But when you're doing business, sitting across the table from someone is so important. And while you can do business via Zoom, we proved that over 2 years, it's not optimal. It's not the best way to do it. And that's one of the reasons that we are so excited that we're going to be back in person this year in San Diego.
I couldn't agree more. I think Zoom is great for meeting people when you already know them, and also for doing podcasts, for example, like we are doing right now. There was one thing that I really missed the minute we went into the digital area, in the digital realm of the pandemic. And it took me a while to figure out what it was. Whenever I signed up for a digital event, I had great meetings. So it was always great to talk to people. But I had 10, 20 meetings, and I thought something is wrong here. And after a couple of digital conferences, I found out, and just show you the business cards from 2019. Whenever I came home from a real world bio, I had 2 or 3 piles of them. And then I thought, why don't I have so many business contacts with the digital bio? And I realized that most of the business cards I didn't get in one-to-one meeting. It was just this lining up for coffee and starting talking with the person behind or in front of me. And this made, I think, 90% of my contacts. Do you perceive that similarly, or was it just me that had this experience?
No, you're 100% correct. And it's why, Christian, that we have really focused on making sure that this year's Bio.22 convention in San Diego, June 13th through the 16th, is filled with networking events. So if you've been, I don't know, have you been to San Diego before?
Not San Diego. Philadelphia and Boston was before, but San Diego, I don't think so.
So San Diego, and I'll be honest, I've not been to the San Diego convention, but everyone that has talks about the Midway experience. So the USS Midway is a battleship that is parked there. Mm-hmm. There will be thousands of people on this network. It is the premier networking party and a get together of the event. So we will be having a reception on the USS Midway. There are all of the networking receptions that we've had. There's going to be a 5K run that I just signed up for yesterday to run. Yes, it's on Monday morning. There's going to be a 5K. We have, there's going to be various parties in the Gaslight District, which is nearby. And of course, the weather is perfect. And as you pointed out, there's golf courses if you want to go. And so we know that, the business of doing business sometimes doesn't necessarily always happen sitting in a meeting room. It happens, all across the city, and which is why we are so excited that we're going to be back live and in person. And it was so important for us to be able to have all of the networking experience available. We also are going to have at the convention floor the Bio Pavilion. So at the pavilion, people will be able to see what bio is all about, right? So they can see our advocacy group. We have one of the things that we're trying to get people to do, Christian, is to take ownership in bio. So we have a video series called I Am Bio, in which scientists in their labs can tell the story of why they're there. It's amazing. The amount of stories that we have is just spectacular. So for instance, we have scientists who lost a mother or a father from a disease, and every day they get up working on that disease in their lab. So we feature them. So we're going to have an I Am Bio area where people can come by and talk about the things that they are doing and why I am bio. That's the kind of the tagline, I am bio. We also have our own podcast that Dr. Michelle McMurray Heath does. It is called I Am Bio. It's available wherever you get your podcast, wherever you get this great podcast from. It's I Am Bio. It's about a 20-minute, the thing is an award-winning, award-nominated podcast. So again, it helps tell that story of where we are. It'll also talk about the advocacy efforts we have. People can sign up for Good Day Bio, our daily Good Day Bio newsletter, again, which is really important for everyone to do. And we are going to be having a very aggressive effort to get folks to look at that. The other thing we've just recently launched is Bio.News. So it's www.bio.news. And what it is it is bio told from our perspective. Science, the public policy debates that we've got going on now here in the United States, in Europe, and elsewhere. We have reporters in Europe, we have reporters in Asia, we have reporters in the United States who are reporting on biotechnology for us, and this gives you access to that and all this content. So when I talk about building a content machine, Christian, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I would urge everyone listening to this to try to engage with us here and learn what's going on, because the policy that happens in the United States affects Europe. The policy choices being made in Brussels has an impact in the United States, and obviously what happens in Asia affects all of us as well. So there's one-stop shop to get all that kind of information, and that's at the Bio Pavilion. If you're going to be at the Bio convention, come visit us at the Bio Pavilion. If not, you can plug in and check it out. We are all over the internet.
No, I agree to your theme of this year's Bio Limitless. And you mentioned before that the Bio is not only in the convention center, the Bio is everywhere in the city. I remember the 2018, I think it was in Boston, when I left the convention center for getting some food and a little walk in between meetings. And when I was lining up at a fast food restaurant, behind me, a woman started talking with me and asked me if I'm also at the convention, and we exchanged business cards. And it is since then a great contact of mine, and we did podcasts together. And she's actually from Europe. She's a European investor, and I met her in Boston at the Bio. So your Pharma definitely works. And as you said, the challenges are multinational, and what happens in Europe affects the United States and vice versa. So we need to work together. Let me ask you one question with looking back to 2020. What I'm curious to hear and learn from you as a conference organizer, the world shuts down from one day to the other. And I never had a chance to talk with someone what happened behind the scenes. I think the preparation of the Bio is not something that you can do in a week. I think it's probably 6 to 12 months in advance that you need to start planning, putting things together. And then suddenly 2 months before the Bio, the world changes completely. Do you want to give some insights how that challenge was for your team?
It was challenging. Least. So March 15th was the March 13th, I think, maybe either 13th or the 15th was our last day in the office. We thought that, and again, we're part of the industry. We thought we were going to be out of the office for a couple of weeks and that everything would kind of get back to normal. So we planned full steam ahead to be in San Diego that following June. It was within a few weeks we realized that that was not going to be possible. And so we had to shift on a dime. And it was extremely difficult, as you might imagine, to be able to do it. Couple that with the fact that our new CEO started June 1st of that same year. So we had a new CEO come in to take over the organization at the same time. So it was all hands on deck. And fortunately, because we had already begun to build our content machine, we were better prepared, I think, than most to be able to shift to that virtual world. I started at Bio in June of 20. So I was at the Philadelphia convention that you were at. That was my first convention as a Bio employee. And what I saw there was a massive amount of content that we were not grasping, that we are not grabbing, that we are not taking care of and not repurposing. And so when I came in, we shifted our communications focus to grabbing that content and making it live throughout the year. So we had already begun that process. We were already planning to do a bunch of video type content at the 2019 conference or 2020 conference in San Diego. So we were a little bit ahead in terms of being able to shift to the virtual world. Also, our events team, which is, I'm telling you, Christian, you've been to these events. Our events team is second to none on the planet in terms of producing an excellent show, an excellent experience. From the moment you get off the plane to the moment you leave, our group makes sure you feel welcome and plugged in and included. So we have the best events team in the world. I'm biased, of course, but we have the best events team. They will be able to shift and move things rapidly into that virtual space. And then, to be honest with you, we are flying a little bit the airplane while we were building it, and reading the instruction manual all at the It worked. We learned a lot of lessons. But then what it did was we still didn't know if 2021 would happen. We were still hopeful that 2021 would be an in-person event, because at the time we weren't sure exactly when. We knew our companies were racing toward the finish line. We knew our companies that are Bio members, they had 900 treatments, vaccines, diagnostics, 900. That's breathtaking. So we knew that there would be an end. We just didn't know when. And so we had to hold our breath. And it was probably around December when the first vaccine started coming out in Europe, and then in the United States. And then we watched the data as it came in, and it was probably mid-spring when we decided it's going to have to be a second virtual convention. But by that point, we had planned a little bit better. But you're right. It is a 12-month process. To peek back behind the curtains a little bit, again, our conference this year is going to be in San Diego, June 13, 14, 15, and 16. We will start planning the very next week for Boston in 2023. We're already planning for it. As a matter of fact, at the Bio Pavilion, you'll be able to sign up. You'll be able to get, discounts on being able to come and visit us in Boston. Again, another reason why you should go to San Diego is it's good business to be able to come back to Boston, because 2023, we will have been, 3 years, 4 years past the pandemic. So we're hoping that we, shatter records even greater when we're in Boston in 2023.
Yeah, Boston is also closer to Europe, so it's San Diego is a little
That's
bit
true.
more. But I agree to everything you say. So going to Bio, your team is doing a great job. So I always enjoyed it from the first minutes to the last minute, and I always felt sorry when the 4 days were over. So it goes by so fast and so quickly. When we entered the pandemic, I think the first event that was canceled and put digital was the Bio Europe here in Europe, and I was hoping that, as you mentioned, that we can go back to, I think you planned, you said San Diego, it was San Diego in 2020.
It was.
And unfortunately, it didn't happen, and also a year later. But one of the success stories, as you mentioned, was the joint effort of Pfizer, a US-based company, and BioNTech to bring the vaccine very quickly to the healthy population. And also Moderna had similar technology in development and was also very quick in developing it. And I think this is also behind the scenes, as you mentioned. Maybe we can emphasize that a little bit more, that people understand that Bio is not a conference only. You're doing a lot in the background. So are they all members of your organization as well? So
they are. Yeah. Yes, all of them are members. As a matter of fact, much of the collaboration on the mRNA vaccine technology happened between companies, who had collaborated, who met at Bio, who partnered at Bio, who worked through the partnering system at Bio. Moderna is a perfect example of a company that no one had heard of. Everyone has kind of heard of Pfizer. It's a multi-generational group, but BioNTech and Moderna, no one really had heard of them. So Moderna and BioNTech members, we have, again, 1,000 members of our company. So, we also have, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and Merck and, all of the, the large big companies as well. But we really focus on that small stage, early development, because they're part of this ecosystem. A lot of people don't understand this. Everyone's kind of heard of Pfizer and the big companies. They are very important in the ecosystem. They invest in the small companies. They help these small companies grow and become big. And one of the things we learn, and we look at both Moderna and BioNTech and Pfizer partnership, and if you look at those, it's an excellent example of why the work Bio does is so important. It is really important to have a large company that helps to invest and grow in these small companies. And so what Bio does, Bio, the organization does, is we help these small companies, and we want to help them with public policy challenges. We want to help make them meet the Pfizers and the Mercks and the large companies. That's what we do, is we partner and bring people together. I mean, our whole function is to bring the small, medium, and large companies all together. No other organization in the world is doing that today. And a lot of people don't understand it, because in all fairness, our conference is so awesome. People think it's just a conference. We're actually far more than a conference. And we are really looking forward to seeing everybody in San Diego so that we can engage them and let them know we really want to help. We want to help grow your business. We want to help you get partnered with a large company or an investing group. We want to help you reduce your expenses and get savings through our Bio Business Solutions program, right? Sign up to Bio and immediately you get discounts. Someone was saying, we were talking the other day, small companies save on average 4, 5, 6 times what they pay in dues just by being part of Bio. So being a Bio member is critically important. And a lot of people don't realize that you don't just have to come to the conference. We want you to join. We want you to be part of our movement.
Now I agree to everything you say. I work with small biotech companies since 2006. It's a while. So one was Nebraska. It got listed on the Nasdaq via an IPO, and you need these small biotech companies because they do a lot of research that is in the early stage is far too small for big pharma. And the tricky thing always is, how do you get in touch with the big corporations in a time and cost efficient way? And I completely agree to what you say. Bio.US and your organization is doing a great job in helping these companies. I mean, as you said, BioNTech before 2020 was also more or less a very small biotech company. Nobody knew it. And this is very often the same with all other biotech companies, that when a problem occurs, then you need a solution, and you need these small companies working on solutions at a time when you don't have the problem. And the question that I have to you at the end of our recording is, when I look now towards San Diego, one final big question from my end. The side events that you plan to have where people meet colloquially, can you explain a little bit more? You mentioned already the 5K run, and also the other events. What events are there happening besides the Bio.US that help people get together, also in restaurants and in bars and doing sports?
Yes, so there's almost too many to mention. We only have a few minutes left. So, but there is a mass schedule of events that we have, Bio.org, and then go to our international convention page, and there's a whole schedule of events, which is really, really will help plug you in. And if you're coming, you can actually just follow it if you are following us on your iPhone with plugging directly in to bio.org. But let me give you a few highlights. So the Midway is probably one of the most exciting that we that we have. We have the welcome reception. It's Monday. It's on the exhibit floor. It's going to be a homecoming of sorts. We've got a lot of surprises. We don't want to tell everybody, but come to the floor on Monday. It's a welcome reception. It's going to be killer. Midway is, one of the most historic battleships in the United States. We're going to have a big party there. Almost every night, there's going to be ways in which you can network and get together. And there are also many, many smaller group parties throughout. We have the Council of State Business, state biotech sciences. So all 50 states that we represent. So in every one of the U.S. states, or almost every one of the U.S. states, there are local chapters of Bio, which a lot of people don't know. They're going to be having events throughout the city as well. And so there are so many opportunities, so many networking opportunities that it's really, really, really amazing.
Rich, there is now the really final question. Thank you for the explanation. Did I miss anything that you would like to say? Is there anything open that you would like to give to the people right now at the end of the recording?
No, I just looking forward to seeing everybody in San Diego, June 13, 14, 15, and 16. There's never, ever been a better time to celebrate the work of the millions of scientists working in our labs on so many solutions that will save the planet. Again, you need not look any further than what happened in COVID to understand how we need a victory lap. The industry has been working 24/7 for almost 3 years now. It's time to relax. Let's get down to business. Let's get back to business. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in San Diego. Christian, I'll see you on the Midway.
Absolutely. Rich, thank you very much for your time. And I'm looking forward to meet you and your team at the Bio US in San Diego in June.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.